Well, off the back of a very interesting episode yesterday of Rookie to Royalty, where quite a bit of stuff happened, not too good on the pitch, but certainly quite good for us off it. Thankfully, we've signed a bunch of new players, found our form of a couple of different shapes, and now, for the last time this season, we're going to take on a couple of teams inside of the playoff picture. If we can keep ourselves up near the top, we might have a chance of getting automatic promotion. Hello everyone and welcome to episode number 13 of Rookie to Royalty here on Shaun Does FM with Buxton FC. I hope you're doing well, and coming up today we take on Southport and South Shields, sitting 6th and 5th in the National League North, our two toughest tests left this season, and hopefully can keep ourselves at the very least in second spot, hopefully less than 3 points behind Kidderminster Harriers, considering who they've got in the last couple of games. The teams that are around us, I do think, have quite tougher runs home than we do off the back of these next couple of games that we will play during the course of today's episode. So hopefully you guys are looking forward to that, but this does come off the back of a pretty massive episode yesterday. If you missed that one, I'll leave a link to it over in the top right corner. Our form on the field, pretty bad. We suffered defeats to Kidderminster as well as to Alfreton Town, but you might be able to see over on the right hand side behind my head, there's a massive spike on our finances. We got a Tycoon-takeover. Didn't do anything with that during the course of yesterday's episode in terms of players. Off the back of that, though, we have done quite a bit, just adding some extra depth here to our squad to hopefully make the most of what's so far been a bit of an above expectation season here with Buxton, and try and push on and get ourselves back on top of the table for that promotion push. Nothing's happened transfers out because obviously now we're rich as anything. We don't need to sell anyone. We have brought in, though, quite a few players just to make sure that hopefully we can achieve that promotion that we are after. So first up, back on the 21st of February, we got two transfers through. First up was a new first choice goalkeeper, Tycoon. He obviously comes in to be a much better option than both Eric Henry, who, to be fair, that injury to him happened at quite bad time, and also Reece Truman, who just has been very, very iffy at times for us so far this season. So Ted King comes in, does the former West Brom man, and also did spend some time, I can see there, at Liverpool back in 2016-17. He's 24 years old, 4-star current ability, 4.5-star potential. Certainly a decent upgrade in terms of attributes on what we had here previously is on £800 a week. But of course, he cost us nothing. We got £490,000 put in our transfer budget yesterday, and most of that has been switched over into the wage budget. So Ted Can was the first sign we made here for our Australian investor. Should really start every episode now with an Aussie, oi. But I'm a New Zealander, and already I feel like I've just been to a strip club with how dirty that did make me feel inside. So we'll try and ignore that and not do that for the rest of the saving, though we probably should do while here at Buxton. Under Australian rule, it feels very weird. Then we signed Kickoff Martin, who is a slightly better backup in central midfield than someone like Tom Elliott, just in behind Will Truman. He's on £450 a week. You want us to with quite a few of these contracts. They are only until the end of the season, so to be fair, not a big long-term financial burden with these deals that we have done. But on a free there, we pick up the Bermuda international. Hopefully, if we need to call upon him, he can do a decent job there in central midfield, not ball wing midfield, because he can't mark, which is a bit of an issue. Does look a little bit better suited to central midfield. So a little bit there of a squad player who formerly spent some time at Boston United as well as Kidderminster, so certainly does have history in this division. And then over the last week or so, a couple of extra players to bring in as well. David Carson comes in, initially someone we would have actually liked to sign instead of Kickoff Martin, but he thought at the time we didn't have the financial muscle. That changed once we made some adjustments to our budget. So he's now here on £775 a week for the rest of the season, just like that previous player, but he is actually a bit better than Will Truman and can also do a job if we need him to in that ball wing midfield role a little bit further back. So an upgrade there on both a Hayden Lindley and a Will Truman. So he's certainly someone, if we get tired players in those parts of the field, and certainly both our previous first choice options there in Kirby and Truman, when they were on a heavy workload, were very injury prone. He's a great player to come in and do a job for us there. Another Ginger Ninja. Not too sure though if he'll play alongside Lindley. If he does, we'll be on fire there in that defensive midfield. But he comes in, does the former South Shields man, and to wrap things up for now, Ryan McLean comes in, who can play either side at wing, also central attacking midfield, and strike at £925 a week. we've been struggling for a little while with Jack Stubbs at right wing. He can actually come in and replace him on that right hand side with a very strong right foot. And also, Ethan Fitzhugh does not want to sign a contract extension here going into next season. So he looks like a very, very able backup. Hopefully someone we can keep around the club off the back of this season, the former Wimbledon and Hereford man. So a couple of new players were brought in here to our squad, and thankfully they have kind of made a bit of an impact, as well as the fact that we have used a couple of different shapes with our fluid counter-attacking style. You can see here already we've got loaded up as our main one now, the 4-3-3, also a little bit of a 4-2-4, but with that asymmetrical central midfield that we have been using with the 4-1-1-3-1. So 3 different shapes we're using here currently, depending on the opposition that we are taking on here with this Buxton team, and thankfully it's been paying off since those defeats that we did suffer in yesterday's episode. First up, we took on Curzon. This was with that 4-1-1-4. It wasn't pretty. We actually switched here to the other couple of formations during the course of this game. Once we went to the 4-3-3, did seem to find our groove a bit more and also be a lot more solid defensively, and eventually picked up a 4-2. And you can see there, not a great start, but then went 2-1 in front. But then 1 minute later, Jimmy Spencer made it 2-all. But in the second half, DiGirolamo with a goal, and then Fitzhugh, we picked up a 4-2. And if we didn't win that one, would have been pretty disappointed, because Curzon all the way down in 23rd. We're expected to finish 12th, but still, if we didn't pick up a result there, that would have been majorly concerning. So thankfully got the job done there. But then when we went to the 4-3-3 against a half-decent team in Chester, we kind of got FM'd here. We scored through Caden Kelly, but Jordan Hunter grabbed an equaliser right off the back of it. You can see there, all over them in the first 60 or so minutes of this game. But unfortunately, just scored that 1 goal and conceded right off the back of that. So unfortunately, a couple more points there dropped away from home. But thankfully, our only drop points off the back of yesterday's episode since then, a 4-0 winner against Banbury United, going back there to the 4-1-1-3-1. Goals there to DiGirolamo, a double, as well as Caden Kelly. And Malachi Revo actually is in some quite good form now for us. Our 4th choice centre-back here, of course, off the back of the addition of Scott Butler at Buxton. We backed it up with a 3-1 winner over Kingsland Town. To be fair though, wasn't until we switched to the 4-3-3 in the second half that we did start to look quite decent in this game. They were 1-0 up just before halftime at DiGirolamo with a double, and Tom Broadbent, they helped us turn that one around. You can see here in terms of the analysis, first half not very good, switched to the 4-3-3 at halftime, and then we're all over them in the second half. And that also was a little bit concerning, that start, considering those guys are rock bottom and in a horrific patch of form. So certainly hasn't been entirely smooth sailing since yesterday's episode, but we've got the job done when we've needed to, and it does mean we've moved our way up from 3rd into 2nd on the table, just 1 point behind Kidderminster Harriers. If we can get through today's episode in pretty good shape, going back over to the schedule, I'd like to think we'll be okay for the run home. These 2 games on camera certainly our toughest that we're going to play during the last part of the season. We've also got Brackley Town we take on in between games on camera. They're 21st, and that's at home. So surely we pick up all 3 points from that game. And then our last 5 games of the season, we've got Darlington in 16th at home, Lowestoft Town away 22nd, Peterborough Sports at home, to be fair, in 12th. They beat us quite well earlier this season. That could be a little bit tricky. Then the Gainsborough Trinity away, they're in 17th. And to wrap things up, we take on Hereford, another team who could be a little bit difficult, but we did beat them away from home earlier this season when they were in some quite good form. So if we can make our way through today's episode in relatively good shape, still up there, not too far off both Radcliffe and Kidderminster Harriers, I'm quite hopeful we can close the gap on those couple of teams and maybe jump above them during the last couple of games of the season. Because once we have a look at who these guys take on in their last couple of games, Kidderminster, they've got some tricky matchups. Oxford City are in 4th. They take those guys at home. FC United of Manchester, all of a sudden, in a really good patch of form, and they take those guys on away. So certainly a game there where Kidderminster could drop points. Boston, no easy beats in 9th. And then the final day of the season, it is Kidderminster versus Radcliffe. So kind of similar to Marine versus Rushall last season, and our fight to stay up. That game could be quite big if we've got a chance of getting promotion and need to jump above one of those teams, or also just need one of them to not win to go above them and pick up that automatic promotion. In terms of Radcliffe, their run home before that final day clash. The remainder of March for those guys is a little bit brutal. You can see their recent form actually hasn't been too good, but they take on Manchester, Boston, Spennymoor and Southport in their next 4 games. Off the back of that, gets a little bit easier in the free before they take on Kidderminster. So certainly I think we've got the kindest run home of these 3 teams here are currently fighting for that automatic promotion spot. So fingers crossed we can make the most of it and actually get automatic promotion and hopefully keep our rich Aussie investor and chairperson nice and happy here at Buxton FC. But first up today, we take on Southport. These guys do sit in 6th. Their recent form a little bit mixed. When they've taken on decent teams, they have struggled to beat them. So hopefully that'll continue here first up in today's episode. Now, I'm pretty sure this is a team who we probably should be using the 4-1-3-1 against, considering what they're quite vulnerable facing here according to our data hub. But seeing how well we've been doing since switching to that 4-3-3 of late, that's the reason we've got that one loaded up as our main tactic going into this first game of today's episode. Let's hope we can pick up a win and get off to a good start, unlike what we've done quite a few games off camera since yesterday's episode in terms of the players who do come straight into the first 11 from those transfers that we have done. Obviously, Ted Cannon goal a lot better than Reece Truman. Also, we do have Ryan McLean at right wing as well, because Jack Stobbs on a 6.3 average rating in his last 5 games in this season hasn't really been that good, at least in terms of latency. They're actually the overall rating not as bad as I thought it was, but his back half of the season has been very poor. So a couple of changes there off the back of those transfers that we have made. Let's hope they can make a difference here and we can pick up a result against Southport, because to be fair, you'd imagine that Kidderminster will beat Gainsborough Trinity. Radcliffe might, though, have a tougher test as they're away at FC United of Manchester. So to be fair, Kidderminster, not too sure if we're going to close the gap on these guys first up in today's episode, but maybe Radcliffe, we could get a bit of a match on them if we can pick up 3 points from this game. Also, compared to our usual best 11, Charlie Pavey comes in for Caden Kelly, who is on a heavy workload. Let's just give a number here to Carson, who might make his debut off of the bench. A recent addition here to Buxton with all those bucks that we do now have. Those good Australian dollars, thankfully, must be worth a little bit more than the New Zealand dollar in this universe, but hopefully can now make a little bit more of a promotion push here off the back of those signings that we have made, and especially going with this 4-3-3. Do still think the fluid counter attack does suit, especially against opposition like this. Maybe though, when we take on opposition who are a bit further down in the table, we could try something else, albeit our assistant manager does recommend our 3 tactical styles these days as Route 1, park the bus and wing play, and so far haven't got wing play to work too well, and we're not doing the other 2 because there's no way in heck we're going to play that negative football at this stage of the season. But unfortunately, an early free kick here for Southport. Will Russell put that one away, but thankfully he was offside, because that could have been a little bit of a bad start for us there. Ashley Easton does come back in for this game to partner Tom Broadbent. Of course, he's retiring come the end of the season. Let's hope that's not a mistake on my part, because the fair, Reeve, as well as the player that we did sign on loan from Wrexham, they've been doing a decent job for us over the course of the last couple of games while these 2 have got a rest. We got a chance there from a corner, but to be fair, it was a long way out and not too close, but certainly on the front foot early in this game with our 4-3-3, but unfortunately no pay for that yet. Now another free kick here, very similar to the first highlight we did see here to Southport near the halfway line. For some reason here, that striker of theirs is in behind our defences. Radcliffe take a 1-0 lead, and Will Russ will now give these guys a 1-0 lead. Thankfully, Kidderminster actually are drawing with the Gainsborough Trinity, but Ashley Easton, a 6.3 and a yellow card. He's too slow, he's too old. Let's take him off early here for an informed Malachi Reeve. That might be a bit of a costly mistake from me there, changing those centre backs for this game, but I hate that goal. We'll skip over it. It's a really soft goal to concede, especially because we kind of gave them a very similar chance early on in this game. Now the goalkeeper tries to punch that one clear, kind of similar to that previous corner, which we did have. Unfortunately, can't get a shot off the back of that, but hopefully a chance for us here to grab an equaliser before we make our way into the sheds for half-time. Sprayed out there to Fitzhugh down our left-hand side. Now it's Truman who plays that one back to Jack Leake, who will take on the shot, but unfortunately a decent save there from the goalkeeper. And now we go for don't see the corner, but see a different one. So not too sure here what's going on with the highlights. It's Jake Leake who will take this one, puts it far post, Broadbent can't quite get on the end of it now. Truman will hopefully, though, put this ball in the mix, although he's running out here towards the corner flag. There's a free kick, which we're going to see from this. This is a very interesting highlight considering we missed a corner before. Not too sure what's going on here with my FM. Now it's time to see what does happen from this free kick, Kirby. Hopefully a good chance here for someone like Broadbent at the far post. It goes straight out for a goal kick. Not too sure there what was going on with that patch of highlights. We did just have it did just seem a little bit weird, but we're certainly on the front foot. Just haven't scored enough, scored both the chances they had. Thankfully, one of theirs was offside. So because of that, we might actually try here and switch to the 4-1-1-3-1 at halftime. It might just be that tactic suits more at home, the 4-3-3 a bit better away from home. And also, we'll take off Di Girolamo on a 6.3 for Ryan Biggers. But we're not doing too badly. Just haven't scored, so a little bit concerned about that. Still filthy about those couple of chances that we gave to Southport with the centre-backs at that stage of the game. A good one there too. Broadbent from an early corner, but unfortunately a good save there. Might have been tipped onto the woodwork, but certainly on the front foot here early in the second half. Let's hope we can grab an equaliser, and let's get something from this game. If Kidderminster aren't going to beat Gainsborough, that would be quite a good result for us. And thankfully, it looks like we might get something as Cunningham there whips that one into the mixer, and Biggers will come off the bench and head that one home and make it 1 also. But there of a switch of our shape. We've done it a few times over the course of those games I've played off camera, and it has usually worked. To be fair, most times we've been playing a lot worse than we did it in the first half of this game, but this time we weren't scoring, and we really need something from this game, because otherwise we're going to have to play some catch-up in that run home, which to be fair, we could do now. Ryan McLean, an orange injury. Hopefully that's not too serious there for one of our new signings. So Wilbur Parga can come on for him at right wing as we make our way to the final half hour of this game. As now Will Truman picks up a yellow card, we'll get him to ease off tackles. As we do that, a highlight starts. Not too sure if it's a proper one, but let's see. Cunningham here cuts inside, takes on a shot, but that one goes well over the bar. Pretty sure we just saw that because of that change we did make there, getting Will Truman to ease off tackles here with this 4-1-1-3-1 we did switch to at halftime. To be fair, it is creating a few more chances there based on the XG graph than we were doing in the first half, but not too sure if it's going to be quite as solid defensively as the 4-3-3. A chance here for Southport from a tight angle, but thankfully that one just gets tipped wide there by our new goalkeeper in Ted Khan. Certainly still on the front foot in this game, but now about to make our way to the final 10 minutes. We might try here instead of fullbacks, wing-backs, and try and grab a winner here late on in this game. Also, let's chuck Charlie Pavey now in central attacking midfield onto attack and see if that just gives us a little bit more going forward. Even Fitzhugh also now on a yellow card, but won't get him to ease off tackles late in this game. We'll go attacking as well and see if that helps out, but for now it's not. We might go back here just briefly and try an attacking 4-3-3 with wing backs instead of full backs, see what that might do, and hopefully that late switch might mean we can catch them off guard here, this Southport team, because to be fair, we were doing quite well stats wise in that first half. I actually think we're getting more chances off with the 4-3-3 than the 4-1-1-3-1, so I'm certainly tinkering at this stage of the season to try and pick up results as you saw from that game. But unfortunately, despite all that early domination, we can only pick up a 1-1 draw because those free kicks and those balls over the top that they were putting in behind from them. So a bit frustrating there that we've dropped points at home. Thankfully though, Kidderminster have lost and Radcliffe have only drawn. So that's actually quite a good result for us. It does mean now we go top of the table. So not too bad, even though we probably should have won that game. It's now in our hands here if we want to get promotion, because that big goal differential advantage in our favour. So a couple of drop points for us there first up in today's episode, albeit it didn't prove too bad considering the other results there for both Radcliffe and for Kidderminster. And thankfully, we've backed it up there with a 4-1 pumping of Brickley, staying that game with that 4-1-1-3-1 that got us the goal in that Southport game. Early ones there, the Truman, Fitzhugh and Caden Kelly give us a 3-0 lead. They made it 3-1 there before halftime through Harrison Wood, but thankfully Ryan Biggers, he scored in the second half from the spot, and we win there quite comfortably over a team near the bottom of the table. That's made all the better by the fact that Radcliffe, they slipped up in their game. We'll just go back and check who that was against. We'll just go down here and find it. Kidderminster, they beat Hereford 2-0, but Radcliffe could only manage a 2-all draw with Boston United. So it now means that both us and Kidderminster have a 3-point gap over Radcliffe. And of course, the goal differential is the deciding factor in this league. So as long as we can match Kidderminster throughout the rest of the season, we should be champions and go up automatically to the Vanarama National League. So at the moment, it's in our hands. Let's see if it's going to be the case as we take on South Shields in our next game. These guys, of course, are the team that was supposed to be the raging hot favourites for promotion, but currently a little bit far off. They're 8 points behind us on top of the table, and with only 6 games left, not too sure if they've got long enough to catch us up. But of course, this is a team with quite a few players in the overall season preview Dream 11, all those West Ham type colours, that's South Shields, and also among their players, they've got a vice captain in Scott Dancer. Certainly, they've got some big names there at South Shields. Fingers crossed that we can find a way to pick up a result. But to be fair, this clearly our toughest game left of the season, as it is also away from home. So if we're going to drop points in the game of all those left this year, this is the one I'm expecting it to come in. But also, unfortunately, off the back of that most recent game that we have played, we suffered a rather big injury. Diego Di Girolamo, who has just found some goal scoring touch off the back of those changes in formation we have made off the back of yesterday's episode. He's done his Achilles tendon, gone for 4 to 6 months. That is a big blow, just as he was starting to refine some form here with this Buxton team. It does mean if we go over to the transfer centre, I am trying to sign some strikers with that spare 1.1k a week that we do still have. Matty Taylor will be the first choice if he comes in, the 34-year-old who has spent some time at some decent League 2/League 1 clubs over the past couple of years of his career. If we can get him, that would be quite good. But even then, at 34 years old, he's not exactly going to be without injury concerns either. So to counter that, we're also trying to bring him from Dartford for Luke Smith on a free, only £300 a week, and he looks a little bit better than Ryan Vickers. Hopefully, we'll get those two across the line, and that might hopefully just make sure we can get by despite that Di Girolamo injury, which will affect us for the remainder of the season. Beefy Ryan Vickers did score in that previous game that we did play, that 4-1 win against Brackley Town. This is going to be much tougher as we take on South Shields. So unfortunately, pretty big injury for us there off the back of that big win we picked up over Brackley Town. But fingers crossed there, we can pick up a result against South Shields, try and match what Kidderminster do as they play on the same day as we do. They're away, but to Warrington Town, all the way down in 20th. So we certainly have the toughest game of the top 3 here on this match day, because even Radcliffe, they take on Spennymoor all the way down in 14th. And also we come into this game with quite a few tired players, so it does mean a bit more rotation than we would like for this one. We've got Yates there at right back, Reeve and Butler are at centre back. I think I called him Buxton during the course of that first game. Whoopsie daisy, he really hasn't been playing for us too much, despite the fact we said he'd be a regular starter when we loaned him in from Wrexham. As well as that, we've got Carson coming in balling midfielder for Connor Kirby. And as well as that, Biggers obviously comes in for the injured Di Girolamo, only striker these days here currently at the club. It does mean that Sam Osborne, we're kind of using as a backup. Fingers crossed we don't actually have to use him because he's not a proper striker. And also Stobbs at right wing, because McLean did pick up that injury in the first game and is quite injury prone off the back of that as well. So a couple of changes that we really shouldn't be making for a game this big, but hopefully we can get away with it and pick up something here against South Shields. It's definitely our toughest test left this season. To be fair, one of the toughest games we've got all season with how good these guys were supposed to be, and with it being away from home, let's hope we can try and match here what those other teams up near us at the top of the table are doing and try and hold on to top spot before our fixtures do get a lot easier looking. But so far, it's a relatively quiet game. 25 minutes in, Jake Leake has picked up a yellow card. We eventually get the first highlight. South Shields here, who are on the ball. Not too sure why we're in the dark blue today instead of the all white, because that certainly is just an ever so slight kick clash. Thankfully, some good work there. Kirby did get that ball back for us. Player to Fitzhugh, who for some reason hit it forward there to Scott Dan. So it did mean that South Shields could get back on the ball. So they now hold the ball and try and make their way out from back. But Fitzhugh there with a good foot in to make up for that header before, and it does mean that we are back from the ball. Let's see here what we can do. One of our new Ginger Ninjas and Carson play that one back there to Cannon. Eventually start to make our way forward here, going out to Jack Stobbs down that right-hand side. He'll fizz a ball in there for Ryan Viggers, and maybe that dropping of Jack Stobbs might get him back into form because it's a wonderful ball. The Beefy, not too sure if it went straight into the path of Ryan Viggers, but thankfully he's scoring goals while Di Girolamo is out with that injury and makes it 1-0 to Beefy. I think Hughes there might have got a touch on that one before Viggers did put that one away, because certainly it was a bit of a slow motion shot, that one just looping over the goalkeeper. But we'll take it our first shot on target. We go 1-0 in front now. Will Truman is on a yellow card, so that's a bit concerning going to the second half, as well as Jake Leake being in that same situation. And now there's a corner here for South Shields. They'll put that one far post. Thankfully, Reeve will head that one away. Him and Butler coming back in for this game, considering how bad that Easton was in that previous one. To be fair, Broadbent not too bad, but I think a more youthful centre-back pairing is suiting us at the moment. But some good short passing there from South Shields from that corner. They get it there to De Bulle, who puts it top right corner. So unfortunately, not in front for too long here in this game. They make it 1-1. Butley there leaves a big gap. Fitchu's quite forward. I think Leake there should really be less ground in between those two, and De Bulle can run his way straight through that one and put that one into the top right corner and make it 1-1 to be fair. Though stats-wise, this has been a pretty even game. Our chance apparently a lot more XG. Not too sure how that was the case, but I think 1-1 currently is pretty fair. And late on here in this first half, there is a free kick header, but thankfully that one does go quite safely over the woodwork, and we're going to half-time here locked up at 1-1. Not actually playing that well even with the 4-3-3, so to be fair, it does kind of feel like currently we need to make a change at halftime to our formation to get these guys going, but we're locked up at 1-1. We'll see what happens in this road game, because usually the 4-3-3 does work quite well on the road. We'll take off those players on yellow cards of Giblin for Leake, and also I think it's going to be Tom Elliott here for Truman, albeit Ethan Fitzhugh looks a bit better there in central midfield. So I think instead of that, we'll do Papaga for Will Truman. Let's hope that that will work out. Also make sure here that Fitzhugh won't be easing off tackles in the second half, unlike Truman. That might help break things up. Some of the players out there not too happy. We've just told them we were disappointed with that first half, because to be fair, stats-wise, it wasn't too good. Just the 2 shots, 1 on target, and that was the goal we scored through Ryan Viggers, who's dropped down to a deep red heart very early in the second half. We'll see what we can do with that, if we can leave him out there if he starts to recover. Unfortunately, not looking like that will be the case. So unfortunately, I think here we're going to have to try out Sam Osborne as a striker, and he isn't too good. Tom Elliott can also do a job there, but Sam Osborne has ever so slightly better finishing, so we'll try him there for late stages of this game. Also just seeing if Kelly or Fitzhugh suits better the advanced playmaker role. It does look like Kelly might be better in that one, so we'll leave things as they were there in that makeshift midfield off the back of that sub of Will Truman. But so far the second half, not up to a lot, and I think it's time to switch that 4-1-1-3-1, because the 4-3-3 not doing too well for us so far in this game. And of course, we probably just want to leave Fitzhugh where he was if it didn't make a difference before with the 4-3-3. So just trying to see here what might work late on in this game to try and get us a few more chances, because so far it's been a pretty disappointing display. Just the 2 shots, 1 on target, but thankfully Ryan Viggers did take that chance, and eventually we get a highlight. But it is South Shields here who are on the attack. Watson on the byline plays that one back there to Ada. A shot there, which thankfully just goes the wrong side of the woodwork for them. So still locked up at 1, all about to make our way into the final 10 minutes. That 4-1-1-3-1 not doing much for us either. Let's go back to the 4-3-3, which usually does quite well away from home since we've been using it. Just not quite today. Matt Yates will pick up a late yellow card, but to be fair with how poor we've been, I think at the moment we'd take the point. Not too sure what's going on in the other games involving Kidderminster and of course Radcliffe. To be fair, Radcliffe 3 points behind us. Draw means they can't catch us. We'll ignore them for now, but that was a pretty poor display. Thankfully, we scored that first and really only chance that we did see through Ryan Viggers off the back of that ball from Jack Stobbs, because we conceded not too long off the back of that there through Lucas De Bulle. It finished 1-1, and we're probably quite lucky that was the case. So not a good performance from us there, but that should be our toughest game left this season. Let's hope now we can get ourselves on a bit more of a run as we take on teams for the most part in that bottom half of the table. But unfortunately, we dropped down to second because Kidderminster, they've beaten Warrington Town 3-1 Radcliffe, also the same result there over Speedmore Backed, kind of where it was come the start of today's episode. We sit in second now though with only 5 games left, but of course, final day of the season, Kidderminster take on Radcliffe. So we could only manage 2 draws there in those games we played on camera during the course of today's episode. It does mean that we still find ourselves in second on the Vanarama National League North table, but these days 2 points behind Kidderminster instead of the one at the start of today's episode. But as we mentioned earlier on today, their run home as well as Radcliffe's does look a lot tougher than ours does, especially off the back of that South Shields game that we have just played. So let's hope that they start to slip up and we can go above them in those final couple of games of the season, hopefully even before they take on Radcliffe on that final day. But that's probably what we'll come back for in tomorrow's episode, and hopefully as well with a first choice striker, because Viggers did get slightly injured in that game, but thankfully nothing too serious, not even something that's popped up there in our injury reports. So thankfully he is not injured. Let's hope before we take on Darlington we'll get a Matty Taylor or someone through the door so we can actually be a bit better there in front of goal. But we do need to actually create some chances, which was the problem in that South Shields game. But I think that will do it for today's episode. Certainly a tight race here late on in the Vanarama National League North season for that automatic promotion spot. If you enjoyed that episode, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying the series here on the channel, also make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn that notification bell on as well. We'll come back tomorrow. I am well aware we've only got 2 episodes left this week, and of course we could, if we don't improve, end up in the playoffs. With that in mind, I think we'll come back for the final 2 games of the season. So that means I'll take on Darlington, Lowestoft Town, and Peter Sports off camera. Hopefully pick up maximum points from those 3 games, and we can come back and take on Gainsborough Trinity and Hereford and see if we can find a way to jump above Kidderminster and hopefully keep ourselves above Radcliffe as well and secure automatic promotion to the Vanarama National League for next season, as well as pick up the Vanarama National League North title. Otherwise, we will then get stuck into the playoffs at the end of this week. So we'll come back tomorrow, finish off the league season, hopefully can make the most of what looks like an easier run home than our 2 title opponents capped off with those games against Gainsborough and Hereford. So until then, thank you very much for watching. Keep on keeping on, and I'll see you then. Cheers.